everybody, my name is Valohna Wynn. I am the art director for Safe House of the Desert, and I'm also a certified emotion code practitioner. So today I want to talk to you about the power of art therapy as well as the power of emotion code healing and how I use those two modalities in my classroom to reach students that have suffered from trauma and abuse and neglect. And how they literally can make a difference and save lives. So most of the time when we think about art, when we think about therapy, we assume that it's something that's cognitive and a typical cognitive experience, but it's not. Art therapy is about using anything artistic to express emotion. You know, I mean, we're natural storytellers, and so from Van Gogh to Dali to Picasso, every bit of art that was created had a story attached to it. And the same thing goes for clients that I'm working with and also students that I'm working with. So if you're interested in becoming an art therapist, I want to tell you a little bit about what the art therapy experience is and what you can expect. First and foremost, what I want to bring to your attention is that one person's blue is another person's yellow. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that for some people, the color blue would be very peaceful. And for other people, it may be a very dramatic color that reminded them of abuse. So when you're working with clients and you're working with students and you're doing art therapy, we can never assume that we know what it is that's being expressed. At the end of the creation of the piece, that is when the student and the client is asked to literally explain their art. And in doing so, what it does is it unearths whatever energy that's being produced and expressed and allows you a key that you can take and you can use in a therapeutic manner. The things that I work with are, tactile type of art projects. Let's say jewelry making, let's say textile art, fine art, three-dimensional art, collage, theater props, dancing, singing, spoken word, poetry. I'll use these mediums in order to reach in and work with a student so that they can access emotion that's stuck in the body and get that emotion out, so then they can then move on to the therapeutic stage or the cognitive therapeutic stage to really identify the triggers and what's been going on. So art and therapy really go hand in hand, and it's a beautiful, beautiful marriage of the two that I get to work in to be able to work with these students. I want to tell you a story about an art therapeutic experience, and it'll give you kind of a good example of what it may look like and how powerful it can be. About a year ago, I had a young woman who came through the shelter, and this young woman had been abandoned by her parents. Both her parents had died, and she was living in Hemet in a trailer park, in the trailer that their family owned. The authorities found her, and she was suicidal, and they brought her to the shelter. And on the first day that she was at the shelter, she came into my art class, and in that art class, I asked her if she wanted to paint. She said absolutely, she wanted to paint. And I said, what would you like to paint? She goes, well, I don't know, can I paint anything? And I said, you can paint anything. And as I'm looking at this young woman who's all dressed in black and she's very dark, she says, can I paint anything? And I said, absolutely, you can paint your darkness. This is what this class is for. And in doing so, at the end of the class, what she came up with was a picture of a really barren tree. And this barren tree was in a black expanse, and it had a hangman's noose on it. And that was her first picture. Now, most art therapists or art people would not necessarily accept the darkness. They may say, well, let's try this to have you feel better. But I was not afraid of her darkness. I wanted her to express her darkness, and I wanted her to go as deep as she needed to go. So the next day, as she came into class, she goes, Lady V, and that is the class name that students use for me. And she said, Lady V, can I paint anything I want? I said, absolutely, you can continue to paint whatever you want. And she looked at me with eyes that were slightly defiant. She said, anything? And I said, yes. And so that day she painted the same tree that had the hangman's noose in the darkness. But yet what was different about this was that the tree started to sprout green leaves. And on the bottom of the painting said life or death. Now in that moment we knew she had a moment of thinking, do I really want to die? Do I really feel suicidal? The third day came. And as the third day came, she said, Lady V, can I paint anything I want to paint? And I said, absolutely you can. And she picked up yellow, and she picked up a beautiful canvas and created a mandala. And on the bottom of that canvas, she put the word peace. That's the difference that art makes, literally, from one day to the next. As long as we give students an ability to express in a way that has meaning and merit, and we don't shut them down, we don't put them in boxes, then they're allowed to express what they need to express. And that is healthy. And with the ability to get her to trained therapist, we could go deeper to find out what triggers her so that she feels suicidal and try to do something to negate that suicidal feeling. So the other aspect of what I bring into the classroom and what is of value is Dr. Bradley Nelson's emotion code. And it's an energy healing technique that literally identifies trapped emotions in the body by using kinesiology. So our body literally has a subconscious, and the subconscious knows exactly what's going on with us. Now we may not be able to speak it. And the beauty of combining art and emotion code is art allows us to express with a medium, and the emotion code allows us to express with an energetic imprint. Our bodies are like antennas with energy. Literally, we have a grand meridian of the body that goes down the back, much like an acupuncture median. And in that, what travels in that is energy that travels out into the body, and it basically is a data flow that duplicates the messages. Let's say the message is, I'm not good enough, or worthless, or shameful, or angry. Those words, that energy travels throughout the body, and that's what shows up in the sphere of influence that a client or a child sits in. So what I use is a magnet, and we bring magnet therapy into the kinesiology to be able to break up that data signal, if you will. So from a kinesiology perspective, in order to find out if an emotion is trapped, literally we'll use a couple of methods. One is the ring and ring technique, where if it's positive, I can't pull these ring fingers apart. But if it's negative or a no, they'll pull apart easily. So I could say Valohna, 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 and it's not coming apart. But I could say Valohna, 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 Santa Claus, and all of a sudden that pulls through. Anyone can do this. And your body knows the difference between a yes and a no. And that's what makes it so beautiful. So in using the emotion code in a classroom setting, literally we'll start with art, and then what I'll do is I'll work with the student and have them identify the emotions using the emotion code, and it is absolutely amazing what happens. Literally, if we looked at our hand and we put it under a microscope, it appears solid, but it's really not, because we're made of all sorts of particles and DNA and molecules and protons and all sorts of wonderful scientific knowledge. And it basically ends up just being an energy imprint. So using the body as a conduit and the mind as a conduit to finding out what the triggers are and what you need to do in order to feel better is at the core of what I do using the emotion code. You know, the emotion code was created by Dr. Bradley Nelson, who was a chiropractor, and so it's a great opportunity to use these two mediums together to get to the end result, which is to have a student or a client feel much better. Every aspect of what I do is about empowering a student from the inside out and a client from the inside out. So that's a little bit about what art therapy is and what the emotion code is. And we heal them one brush stroke and one magnet, swipe at a time. It is my pleasure to be of service, and thanks for listening.